everybody. We're here in the first pre-modis actual interview with Lily from HALT as well. She was a classmate of mine. We're in university together. So let's start with a few questions, and Lily can say a few words about herself as well to the audience.
Absolutely. Thank you, Spiros. Thank you for having me.
All right. So what came to your mind? What was the first thought that came to your mind when I said to you to talk about dyslexia?
Okay, so thank you, first of all, for inviting me and for contacting me. And I am super honored to be the first guest of this podcast.
Well, thank you for coming. I really
Thank
appreciate it.
Amazing. But yes, so when you first contacted me, I have to say that the first thought was, okay, like he's probably reaching out to the right person, because I cannot imagine of a more dyslexic person than me. And actually, I have dyslexia and dyscalculia, which is slightly different, but still on the same learning disability spectrum. So I said, okay, perfect. Spiros is definitely contacting the right person. But at the same time, I felt like, I'm not an expert on the topic. So I thought, well, I don't know where to begin to talk about it. But then secondly, I thought, okay, well, still I see that it can be relevant for me to share my own experience and my perspective about it. And yeah, I think I saw it as a good practice for me to look into myself, first of all, and like really reflect on my journey, and as well as do some more research about dyslexia and what does it mean to have learning disabilities. So I thought, okay, interesting, let's learn more about it together. And then third, I thought that I really liked the cause why you're doing it, so to interview and interact with different people, and yeah, like just learn about their journeys with their learning disabilities, bring awareness on the topics, and develop a more positive and a more positive narrative, and bring some inspiration to people who may struggle as they go through their self-discovery and self-mastery journey. So yes.
Yeah, I think like even though we're not specialists in dyslexia or like psychology, I think that sharing, as you said, sharing our stories and how we managed it with our families can be a great inspiration for people, and also a way to see things we did, and maybe they can also put it in their lives and manage to grow out of it better and discover themselves as well.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, so how did you, growing up, how did you and those around you manage the issue of dyslexia?
So when I think about managing the issue of dyslexia, I would start saying that I don't know if we should call it issue, but I can see that it can definitely feel like an issue at first. But then now, looking at it with a more optimistic mindset, I do recognize that with the right education and the right support, this dyslexia, in this case, learning disabilities in general, that can be seen as an issue, can actually be an opportunity, depending on how much you get to know yourself and how much you decide to then focus on your strengths, rather than maybe being stubborn on your so-called weaknesses that you may identify on the way. So, and I think of this also thinking about a metaphor that a ex-employer of mine had brought to mind, and I think it helps me. Being dyslexic, I would say I'm quite a visual person, so I love metaphors. So she told me, when you reflect on something that you're embarking on, something you want to invest your time in, learn, maybe a new maybe a new job, or something like about a task, particular tasks and aspects about your education and jobs. Like if you feel like you're doing this with your right hand, like if you're right-handed, like in my case, or if you feel like it's something that comes like you feel like it's a struggle and you're kind of forcing it doing with the left hand, like maybe pause and see if it's actually enjoyable. Like if if you actually want to get into it and pursue it, then yes, but then always focus on things that's that feel like maybe more natural and like more to you. So okay, a little bit of digression, but I hope I hope this is helpful for the general episode. But yes, in my journey, how we managed it, a bit about me. I'm based in London now. I've been here for 5 years, but originally I'm from Milan, so northern Italy, and where I grew up with my mom, and my dad lives in Lake Como, so not too far, and then my twin sister. I have a twin sister, and I was born and raised in Milan. So what happened is that I was really lucky because I was diagnosed with dyslexia early on. So which unfortunately is not the case for many people. So this is something we should definitely mention. But I was diagnosed when I was between 6 and 7. That is the earliest you can get diagnosed. I think by law in Italy you can be officially uh, officially dyslexic medically at 7 years old. So I was flagged early on by a good teacher in primary school in first grade, that had already had experience with dyslexia and dyslexic student. So she was good at spotting it, like because we were learning how to read like the alphabet, the numbers, so the start of reading and counting, and I was struggling a lot and mixing up both letters and numbers. So she signaled this to my mom, and then my mom was very responsive, reactive, and she brought me to do all the assessments and the public health, and then I embarked on my logotherapy journey. I hope it's called logotherapy in English. It's logoterapia in Italian.
The same
So
in Greek.
same in Greek. Okay. Exactly. So this is how we managed it then. Like it was spotted early on, a supportive teacher, and then very supporting mom. I'm very lucky, and she put me into all the assessments, and then the course of action, the course of support was logotherapy, and then also I did a lot of tutoring. I have to say, like because my mom was always super busy working, and then I lived with her. So to do my homework, I was always quite independent. But then when I really needed support, I could have access to tutors, which was very helpful.
Completely. I mean, first of all, to say like early diagnosis is very important,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, as you said, like many kids don't have that, or like they're not surrounded by the right people to observe it as well. I mean, for my case, was also like a very early, like I was diagnosed in an early stage.
Yeah.
That also was very helpful for my journey, and I had like also, as you said, like with because my mom also worked a lot, so for some like for some classes I had also tutoring
Yeah.
for support. But I think all those things are very important. Also, the most important thing, I think, as you said, is like for your for your parents and more especially the moms, because the moms are the ones that are more involved with the kids and those kind of things. Should be very supportive to help the kid and kind of understand that it's not like a disability, but more like something as a kind of superpower, like that kind of thing that makes you see things differently and kind of help you see that it's not like it doesn't make you different. It's something that you think differently and it makes you unique.
Yeah. And I want to say that I mentioned my mom just because I grew up with my mom, but equally goes to dads. I think dads are great, and they can be just equally as involved into just supporting and giving the right support depending on the family situation that people have,
No,
obviously.
no, obviously, of course, both the parents should be supported, but I think generally when a kid is growing up, the moms are the ones that are more involved on the everyday stuff of the kids. So I completely understand what you said. So have you encountered any situation that you believe slow you down your development or trouble you during the school? or your social environment, like depending with dyslexia or general learning difficulties?
So, I have to say that in general, as I mentioned, I was lucky to have the support both in school and both from the school and then the family environment. But this again was due to a informed math teacher in my case that had previous experience, and no. So I have to say that. So if situations specifically that slowed down my development or troubled me in the social and school environment, not really like specific situations. Maybe we're going to reflect more on like my view of like the education system in the next questions. But specifically, no, I have to say that I had the right support. But it has to do because I was quite lucky. In general, what I can say is I did have their support. That in my case was most of the time extra time to finish the exams, and then some other compensation tools like in math, like very mnemonic things, like things that you have to memorize. I would like formulas and so on. I could have some formulas with me or a mind map with just keywords for me to help connect and don't deviate too much, or yeah, just visual cues were really helpful. But yeah, in general, I have to say that I did have the support, but if you ask me, was it ideal or was it an enjoyable learning experience in Italy? I'm talking about Italy right now. I have to say that no, I did not enjoy overall my learning experience in Italian public schooling. This is because it's based still it's quite traditional and academical, so it's based on lots of sitting. And we have to say that in my case, then it's very different, but it tends to be the case of many dyslexics that we're also quite active physically, not just mentally, but it goes also with ADHD. There's that hyperactivity component. In my case, I really felt that I was always a very active and a child that struggles to stay still for many hours. And unfortunately, in Italy, this is the case. Like it's you don't get to switch even the classroom. Most of the times the whole year is the same classroom and the teacher comes to the classroom for different subjects, but you end up sitting and a lot. So for me, the sitting, then listening, and reading, and based a lot on reading and studying by memory. So I think this didn't give me the space that I would have liked to be more learning a more interactive and engaging way. For example, through play or laboratories, debates, more interactions, and then very important projects and group projects where you get to maybe present and focus more on soft skills. So yes, I would say I did struggle to focus and stay still in class, and overall struggling with the time to complete independently all the readings and all the exercises that you're given in Italian traditional school system. And then overall boredom, and I'm feeling unmotivated at times, but this happens to many students obviously, and kids, but I felt it particularly, and I think it's due to the system, not due to just laziness.
I know. I mean, for Greece, that goes like kind of in collapse with the next no the question after the next one. But like in my experience as well in Greece, I think like I was very like I'm very thankful for my parents that I went to a school that is English, and I think English it's a language. Compared to Greek, it's much more friendly to people with dyslexia. So for me, like that school had like a learning center kind of, like an environment that you do like a 1 hour, if I remember it, like a class that help you and support you for dyslexia. But yeah, I agree with you that in my view that and that will go to the next question. I mean, I think the whole thing didn't exactly slow me down, but I think it gave me like some skills and some understanding about life that I still use today. So, for example, with notes and like being like it made me understand that the importance of scheduling and being, like having notes, having everything like, on place and having like, everything like that, like a like being organized.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So let's go to the next question, which is kind of like a collab with this one.
Yes.
How did you did how do you help yourself overcome any obstacles that you have in life generally, and also through this lecture? Were there any combinations in a way?
Yeah. So I have to say, and connecting with what you just said, it's important to know yourself and the time that you need. I think time management for me has always been the biggest challenge, because I often I was confronted with the fact that I need more time to complete maybe the same tasks that other people do, but then the quality and like the ideas and like your learning process is really dependent on you and on the tasks that you are given in school, and then the tasks you decide to take on later in life. So it's really about knowing yourself and knowing what works best for you. You mentioned notes, organization. For me, it's I have so much. I use many different tools in my organization to try to be more organized, growing being, with a mind that is tends to be kind of like all over the place, so many ideas happening at the same time, and so on. I really learned how to be tidy mentally and physically, because it really helps me get things done basically, and enjoy during the process. So yeah, from the way that I keep my notes of what I'm learning, and then to the way that I organize my space, like where scheduling your time, where it's important, with who. Like for me, it really helps me also to do things like with who are you doing it. I'm a very social person, and I actually do also enjoy a lot learning, yeah, just by interaction with people. And this goes to my next point. So yes, let's say that how I overcame any obstacle also growing up, what I found out is by knowing myself, I could then put myself into better learning environments that work better for me. So for me, what worked better was definitely something more hands-on and more interactive than the traditional Italian school system. So I found this model to be more effective into the US, so American and British system that you also experienced and mentioned. So I found this when on my fourth year of high school. I was again very lucky and privileged, because I had the opportunity to go to have this exchange here abroad. So I was hosted by an American family in California. So best year ever. But it was great, because there I was placed into a completely new culture. So I really enjoyed this cultural immersion way of learning English in this case, but also the subjects. And then going to this school in the US, I really saw the different environment, how much more positive and friendly even the relationship between teachers and students between themselves, like healthy competition instead of stress and anxiety. And then so yes, what helped me overcome obstacles is then picking, as for example, a university. When I finished high school, picking a university that could offer that environment to me. So I found this in Holt International Business School, so the university we both attended. And in fact, Holt is based on EF, so it's the world's education first, the world's largest private education organization that is all about travel and learning languages. And this was founded by Bertil Holt, that is dyslexic. So I was like, why? I think this maybe in the rankings and stats was not the best university, but it was definitely the best university for me. This is what I say.
No, I completely. I mean, to we definitely need to talk about health because the thing that we met and the reason that we have this podcast today together. I
Yes.
mean, like for myself as well, I thought that maybe it wasn't the top university in the rankings, but for me as well, I thought like for business will have been the perfect university because, as you said, it fits as well a lot with the social thing. Like many, like all the classes had group work, but like live clients, so many societies. So it was a big culture of networking and being with other people, doing things all together as a group, not so much individually as let's say because other universities are much more academic based. Everything is individual. Who will be the best? Stuff like that. In at Hull, for example, I felt it was much more active. Like we had healthy competition, as you said, but in teams mostly, rather than who will be the best.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed like also the focus on you and your development as a person. So your soft skills as well are something very important, and I feel like this is often not a focus at all in the traditional system. Is really what you know, like the knowledge you can store, but then we're very often reminded even with ChatGPT or just like the internet, we can access all knowledge nowadays, but it's really important that you are you and like you have your own yeah, just also that you enjoy the process and like develop as a person. So it's not just about what you know, but it's also about you, how you are, who you know, and what knowing yourself, what you prefer doing. So I yeah, great experience.
Yeah, I mean,
Also is not paying us to say these things, so
yeah, we don't have another term from Hull yet
yes.
until now. I mean, I also agree with that. Everyone is unique, so you need to find yourself and be yourself because no one else is you. So that's the another like kind of thing that people need to be reminded because with the whole social media and stuff, the whole culture, people tend to think like see other people and try to be like them rather than think that I am me and it like that's who I am. So that's a good point. And also like I think I don't know if you agree with it for the question like about the obstacles. The whole disability taught me as well, aside from organization, that with like the kind of the motto that says that with hard work you can achieve anything. Because even though I think it was the same thing for you that we had to put more hard work in most of the stuff, let's say academic stuff. So for me, it taught me that if you persist on something and you work hard on it, you'll have the good results in the end. I don't know if you agree with me or if you saw it the same way.
Yeah, I think definitely teaches you that with practice and willpower and motivation and the right support, obviously, that you need, then you can eventually succeed in your own way. But then as well, as I was mentioning, where I saw like you have obstacles and you can overcome them and be successful, but then you need to also understand like where you're going and where do you want to go. So is it worth you fighting through so much obstacles and so much hurdles? Like is the journey making you happy? Is the end goal making you happy? Like you need to pick your own battles and what's worth pursuing, because in the end we're all unique and life is one. So that's also a big thing that came up for me during my journey.
So basically understanding your end goal and where you want to go.
Yeah,
Having like
and what I enjoy more doing, like yeah, for example, math and like very like yeah, let's say dyscalculia is more the learning disability focus on the struggle with numbers, put very easy, and I just accepted that I'm not, yeah, it's just it's not my strength, and I accepted it and I'm okay with it, but I'm not actively pursuing then in my careers like roles
really,
that are heavy on numbers. It wouldn't make sense, because even if I would get them, I would not enjoy it. It would not really make me the happiest. So
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the thing like knowing yourself and knowing basically what's your strengths.
Yeah,
So then having, let's say, my strengths, like you have your strengths in front of them and say, like, those are the things like I will need to focus on.
yeah.
For me, like, also math wasn't my best suit, like
Mhm.
my favorite class, even though maybe I was good at it or like I did okay, but it wasn't something that I knew that it wasn't my forte.
Yeah,
Maybe my forte was much more the business class or something like that. So as
got
you
it.
said, like, knowing yourself and what are your strengths, and then having like a goal, like, that's are my strengths. That's what I can bring in the table or
Yeah,
in a company and stuff like that. You don't go and, I mean, either me go and invest in a bank and say I will be like an investor. You know what I mean? Like being in the computer all the time and doing like calculations. So
exactly.
what you said is really important as well. Knowing yourself and knowing what are your strengths. So for the next topic and like kind of question, in Italy, is it taboo for families, and what does it mean for children with the whole dyslexia and like the learning difficulties, and how do parents uh, actually do support their kids?
So I would say that the families, it really depends on the family and how educated they are on the topic. If maybe they have some friends or family friends and kids around them, or yeah, growing up maybe they had friends that were dyslexic, and so it really depends on the education of different families and also the access of the family. But I can speak more maybe on the situation in Italy. I have to say that. It is recognized, like this dyslexia is definitely recognized as a learning disorder, in fact, among others like dyscalculia, dysgraphia. Not sure if this is a word in English, but yes. So, and the government has taken the steps to improve and support people with dyslexia. So from 2010, we have a law that requires schools to provide accommodations for students with learning disabilities, including dyslexia. Um, and this requires schools to provide with each diagnosed student with a personalized learning plan that is agreed between the teachers, the family, and the health provider that diagnosed the kid. So, and it's an agreement on then what support tools to bring into the plan. However, there are still some challenges in implementing these accommodations effectively. For example, one is definitely a shortage of trained professionals who can diagnose the kids. So we mentioned that many get diagnosed later on in life, and it's really important that teachers are well trained to be able to support the students and to intervene as soon as possible when where needed. And also, schools in Italy may not have the resources, like the optimal resources and expertise to provide the necessary accommodation and support needed by the kids. So, for example, in my experience in the US, when I was 16, 17, and I went for the exchange year, um, I was really impressed of the technology that the school could provide to during the classes. Everybody had their computer, so we could take notes. Um, I created my Gmail, so I started using Drive in that year. I had never used PowerPoint or even Microsoft, like just
And
making presentations, making group project presentation, or even just being able to type the notes instead of handwriting it on a paper, I think makes a massive difference. And so we need to recognize that in terms of having access to resources, technology, expertise, uh, and implementing the accommodations and interventions for the kids, there's still quite some work to be done in Italy education system.
yeah, I mean, I think generally I would say generally in Europe, because in Greece was kind of a similar thing in my experience. But I think again, like I mean, I guess in later years they will much more implement those things, or like as you said, because I think like for you as well and me, like typing is much more easier with because my letters like most people cannot understand them. I guess
Mhm.
for you as well, like I mean it's much easier to type on the computer. I mean notes also has a have like I believe that writing stuff in your with your hand also has some positive stuff. But for essays and stuff like that, because even for me in my when I was in the primary school, we had to write essays in the paper. That was a very big struggle, for example, with the letters and stuff like that. So I think like also like generally, I think European countries need to implement the things you said like about having access to a laptop or like a computer in class,
Yeah.
and yeah, being able to learn also how to use it.
Exactly. Also, the audio aspect, like many may prefer instead of reading, like listening, or while you read, listening to the text that you're reading. And this is very easy now with technology and the access to computers. So it's an important use of technology to solve this learning, to provide the right support for these learning disabilities.
Yeah, the right tools. Like I think there is even an app now that you can download and scan a text and it will read it to you.
Yeah.
So now there are many more tools. So if I told you to go back in time, are there any moments, words, or people that influenced you in a positive or maybe in a negative way in your development?
Yeah. So I'll focus on the positive because is where I remember one. Like I just have a more concrete response to this. So I would say yes, positively, my mother, because she was really supporting and caring, and always an optimist, or at least that's what she showed me. So I'm thankful for giving me this best side about this issue, or this my learning disabilities. So one thing that I remember vividly is that when she learned of my dyslexia, she then received a newspaper article that was sent to her by a friend of hers that was also a dyslexic. And the article was talking and highlighting the success of some famous people with dyslexia. Some of these people being from current Richard Branson that we were mentioning just before the start of the call, and Whoopi Goldberg, to also the immortal Albert Einstein and Leonardo da Vinci, or Pablo Picasso as well. So it was quite interesting for me, and uplifting to find out how, like, uh, these different personalities excelled in different fields, um, being dyslexic and leveraging some, some resources, and some in different ways, in all their own ways, but really emerging with some dyslexic thinking traits. So yeah, I think that helped me.
No, I mean, do you think you had any teachers, as you mentioned before, like that actually that really supported you? The one you told me,
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I mentioned her before, so that was very helpful. I think the what impacts the most growing up is obviously the teachers, because this is the person that you look up to for education, and you care about their feedback, and definitely my teachers really, yeah, especially this math teacher, she was always very kind, and I think it's very important.
and what about your sibling? Your sibling, like, did she like support you in any way?
Yes. So I mean, this is maybe the negative side, like with siblings and friends. Like in my experience, I did not have a negative experience. That's why I did not start talking about it. But obviously, with siblings, it's easy, like, to tease each other or argue, especially me and my twin. Yeah, we're a great example of that. So yeah, I think maybe also for my case specifically, having a twin, like you are going through the same things at the same time, so maybe there's also some, not competition, but there is something parallel, so you see like what you're both doing at the same time. So there was an obvious difference. I never really suffered from it because I was quite relaxed, and like I was quite still, because of the support and the encouragement that I got. I never, like, okay, actually no, it's true, I did suffer as well.
Yeah.
I I wouldn't finger point anyone specifically. I would just say, because I put my own pressure on myself, because of seeing maybe like you're in class and every time you have to finish an exam and you're given extra time, then you're left in the class, and then you you take much more time. And then so it made me feel like there are definitely moments where I thought like I'm stupid. This is a thought. I thought that it's probably recurrent, and you just feel like down, and like you maybe I felt like, yeah, I may be stupid. I cannot be like. But then, yeah, it just really about, as we said, like understanding yourself and like being putting yourself in the right environment, and not giving up. So I would say,
Yeah, I think, I mean, like looking in a positive way, I think also siblings, in my, because I have also two brothers, one older and one younger. I think, like, I mean, even, okay, maybe there is a bit teasing there, but I think, like, but I mean, siblings generally want to support you, so they will, so having, and I guess having a twin, even being
mhm,
in the same school with you, can be, was a support in a way, much more. I believe, and also like siblings having, I mean, maybe even, I mean, okay, there is teasing there, but supporting you also, like in any way, saying like, maybe I can help you write this essay, for example, or do something like that. I think,
it was not my case, but I'm glad it was your case. Nice. Good job, brothers of Spiros.
yeah, I mean, but I think, like in general, like in the schools, I think what they should do, which plays a role with that question, is that there should be like an education to the other kids, because I feel in many schools it can be like a stigma for kids.
Yeah.
So I think, like, even though maybe you are as like, you know yourself, and you know that, what I have is not a, it's not a problem. It's like, and it's something that I need to learn about myself and know how to manage it,
Mhm.
and then be able to, excel or even have better grades than my classmates, for example, or like better results. So I think maybe, like, from a school perspective, to be able to, eh,
Yeah.
like, speak to the other children and make them understand, as a whole class, that, like, this kid, for example, has this learning disability. They will need, they will, I mean, it's not that we help them get a better grade.
Yeah.
We just support them with someone there, like maybe like the extra time you said, or like
Yeah.
maybe having someone next to them help them write.
Yeah.
I think, like, generally, like, educating a
Yeah.
school environment is very important.
Yeah, and I really like what you're saying. I think from reflecting more broadly on the importance of friends, classmates, peers, and the society, that's the societal environment. It's super important to have an environment in school, like, and as you were saying, like that schools can really enforce a more positive, collaborative, supportive environment. And I think it's, for me, I would advocate on education and schools to focus on two things, and this is diversity, so being inclusive, and like promoting a narrative that's shapes the children's mind towards a inclusive mindset, and towards really embracing diversity and celebrating diversity. And then second, very important, is just kindness. It's really, like, as you said, like maybe a better classmate, like that is excelling in something, encouraging that classmate to maybe help, and like like just doing small things to help each other, and be kind, and then also kind in the way that, you know that speech, like it's very easy to call another child stupid, but then words can really hurt, obviously, especially when you're younger. So, or even without being called stupid, like having people that can make you feel like as such, maybe making fun of you or excluding you, this is something that can really scar the kids. So yeah, it's very important to preserve a positive environment for the children development, and yeah, developing confidence, like confidence, and this helps also the kids to try new things and get comfortable with failing, and exposing themselves to new challenges.
No, I feel like, as you said, like that's why they say like words are swords, are like weapons. They're much more, can be much more harmful than even physical punch, for example, stuff like that. But I think, as you said, like that goes to, like, in the next question, kind of what we discussed right now. But I think, like, having also, like, as you said, and I think we're privileged, both of us, that our parents also supported us as well with these learning disabilities. Because I think, like, confidence comes to a kid from their parents, and especially maybe their mothers much more. So I think, like, that can be like a big boost in a way. And then, like, the thing, as you said, like telling the kids to be kind and educating them about things like that it's not like, because even if I was in the hand of like in the place of a kid that didn't have dyslexia, and I saw a kid like sitting more time, I would think that why he has more, like, or she has more time than me. Like, if I don't know anything about it, I will also kind of have a bad image about them. Like,
Yeah.
not exactly, saying, like, not being kind, but having a
Understanding, yeah, just
having a bad thought, saying like why.
yeah,
Something like education, like, so kind of,
absolutely.
and also, like, that can be from the side of the kids, or of the parents of the kids of the school, like telling them that, tell your kids about this kind of thing and make them understand that it's not something bad, just to support the kid and being kind to them.
Yeah,
Like extra time, for example.
absolutely.
So, to another the next question, which I think is very important, if you have in front of you parents of a child with dyslexia, what I will say to them so they can support the child.
Mm, I would say to inform, like that. Then it really depends on how they already are informed, but in general, as you said, the most important thing, it all goes back to education. So informing themselves, and then feeling like it may not be an easy course of action, but it is a responsibility, because it is really needed for the child and the child development. So then informing on health assessments and the steps that they need to take with the teachers, talking to the teacher, and also how important it is to show love to the child, even if maybe they're concerned themselves, to still, because it can be, then obviously it depends, but I'm always hoping that it gets diagnosed earlier on. Then really be careful of showing love to the child, love and support.
And for me, I would say also, like, I would add to that, like, being, like, understanding and also give time, because I think some of that, like, sometimes maybe parents can be like, like, why you can understand that, so, like, it's like a simple word, like, why can you not, understand this text, for example. And having, like, understanding that, like, kids with learning disabilities need more time. So I think that's what I will add to your point, that to make them understand that.
It's about patience, taking
Yeah,
deep breaths and before getting upset, and yeah.
yeah, being kind and kind of understand that, it's like it's a journey, as you said before, like another thing, it's like a journey for the kid, and to think of the end result rather than not understanding this text, because the kid needs more time, for example, than, for example, a parent or like another sibling that maybe doesn't have any difficulty and can understand very quickly.
Yeah.
And what you will say to friends, classmates, siblings, if you had in front of them.
So if they would be diagnosed with dyslexia.
Yeah, if let's say, yeah, if a friend of yours comes and says, my small sibling
Yeah.
has dyslexia,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. I would say that do not panic, do not worry. This is it's manageable. And it's part of being different, where we're different, and is this being different is not a negative thing, but it can be a positive one. So just for the in this case the friend to support the brother, I would say just really ensure that your brother knows that it doesn't mean that they're stupid or that they're less capable. Like, it just means that they have a different way of doing things and different, thinking, different. Yeah, I would say they're just different. So learn, focus on learning how is this different for them, like based on the different case to case. And whatever, like always show support, and ensure that there is the right system of communication between the teachers and the parents, and then the medical staff, like the assessment, the right medical expertise involved, so that all the key stakeholders are talking to each other and ready to support the journey.
Definitely. And I think, like, I mean, about classmates, we talked about already, like, kind of tell them, make them understand, and maybe through their parents as well, that this is not like
Yeah.
is, I mean, they don't have the extra stuff, for example, because I don't know, they're privileged or something like that, but they need the support to understand the material of the class.
Exactly. I think a good point. Exactly. I agree. And I think my last point for closing the episode of today, I think it's that's just keeping in mind that with the appropriate support, people with dyslexia or any learning disability, anybody can succeed both academically and professionally into their careers. And quoting Albert Einstein, fellow dyslexic. Um, I really like the quote. It says that everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, then the fish will live all its life thinking that he's stupid. And I think
Yeah, it's a
this
very good quote.
yeah.
And the last thing, like the last key question, most I think also, like, what will say to your before we finish, what you will say to your younger self if you met like a 10-year-old Lily, what you will say to her about like the whole journey of learning disabilities?
I would say to try to relax more and try to enjoy, and like just not try to fit in, or like to and I think I've been overall quite good to just embracing my differences and uh, following the support, but just maybe don't get so stubborn in certain things, and just like follow follow your right hand, like what feels right for you. Just follow your instincts and focus on growing in the areas that you enjoy the most. I think in the end life is about not just what you're good and what you're not good, and what you can improve and what you can then be able to do as well, but what do you actually enjoy. So yeah, relax and enjoy more.
Enjoy the journey, as you said. Okay, so to close this episode, guys, thank you very much, Lily, for coming and speaking about dyslexia. And I hope that the people that are listening got like any inspiration or maybe tips that they can use in their lives as with the learning disabilities. And also, then I hope, like, as the quote or the tagline of the podcast, like, I hope you got inspired and motivated generally, the people that are listening. So thank you, Lily, for being here.
Thank you so much, Spiros, and thank you everyone for watching or
And
listening.
you can find the podcast in Spotify, Google Podcast, and on YouTube. And you can follow us on our socials as well to be up to date with the podcast. Okay, thank you very much, everyone.